How many of you guys remember this banger of a menu theme? If so, you're one of the goats who remembers Castle Crashers. Now, if you were like me, you stumbled upon the game strolling through the store and spent all of your remaining Microsoft points on it. Also, why did they think it was a good idea to have the worst conversion system ever for money to Microsoft points on the Microsoft Store? That's another story. I doubt I'm the first to say this, but Castle Crashers is hands down one of the greatest beat-em-ups ever made. And why do I say that? Well, mainly because of the fact that it came at the perfect time in gaming in what I'd like to call the renaissance of gaming. The mid to late 2000s. Specifically though, the Xbox Arcade. It brought so many indie games onto their platform, allowing so many people to be able to access these wonderful games that most people never would have had access to otherwise. Castle Crashers was a game that was made by Behemoth, but at the time, Behemoth was really just a two-man crew, Dan Paladin and Tom Folk, both of whom were prominent on Newgrounds, which was a site that tons of people made animations and flash games, much like this one. And while Castle Crashers may seem archaic to us now, to me, I feel like it holds up still as my favorite beat-em-up ever made. Also, rip Flash. Now, the Xbox Arcade really was a thing of its time. It had so many great games like Castle Crashers, Castle Miner Z. God, I gotta make a video on that game. But it also had a lot of garbage, too. It really did have some of the worst games for its time, but it also had some of the greatest games that has ever graced the Xbox 360. But back to Castle Crashers. So, you start in the barracks, having a party, having a wonderful time after a successful day of work. As you notice, a fallen comrade flies through the door and tumbles down the stairs, which prompts you to investigate what just happened to this dude. As you leave the barracks, you see that the evil wizard is stealing the king's prized gem. Now, being a knight of the kingdom, obviously you have to go and try and get the gem back. But you also notice at the same time there's a horde of barbarians storming the entire kingdom. So you must fight them back first. Throughout fighting, you notice that they're dragging away your princesses, and obviously you can't let that happen. So, I feel this is a wonderful way to just make the story simple and immediately have the player immerse themselves in the fact that they need to save both the kingdom and the princesses, thus beginning your journey that is Castle Crashers. And this really is a journey because it will bring you to the most differing of sceneries, from just simply the forest surrounding the castle, to the outer marshlands, to even volcanoes, and so many more that I just cannot even get into. And in each of these different areas, there are also different enemies. And while their movesets are very similar, they do behave in different ways and have different magic. And magic really is a key part in choosing which character you want to play as, because each of them does something different. Now, upon starting the game, you'll notice that there's only 4 characters for you to unlock, which honestly is standard fare for most beat-em-ups, especially of its time. But Castle Crashers is unique. There are ways to unlock many different characters, albeit some being simple, such as DLC, or just completing simple levels. Completing certain levels in the game. But there are also some that are complex in the fact that you have to do these solo wave-based arenas, or even beat the entire game with certain characters to unlock other characters. And for its time, I thought that that was one of the coolest things that any game has ever done. And honestly, I still feel like it holds up. Not many games nowadays are based around play the game to unlock these things. It's more so just pay to play. And I really don't think that that's a fun way to have games nowadays. So I really do love the fact that this game, it's purely just grind, minus some of the DLC, but, you know, purely just grind to unlock these characters. And I still think that that's pretty awesome to this day. And another thing that I think is very cool is the fact that certain characters are unlocked in this game if you've previously played some of Behemoth's other titles, which I don't think I've seen in any game ever so far, to where you actually get major in-game content from playing a publisher's other titles. I think that's awesome. But back onto the actual gameplay. There are a total of 31 playable characters, which is astounding for its time, especially in 2008, and for just a beat 'em up at that. But the thing with the different characters is mechanically they're not too dissimilar. They kind of just are mainly reskins in their combos and their magic. While majority of them are somewhat differing, majority of them are also very similar, just reskins of other characters' abilities. But not our 4 poster childs. Each of them have their own respective elements that they kind of represent. Green being poison, red being lightning, orange being fire, and blue being ice. Now, all of those are very different in the fact that poison obviously would poison someone. I guess poison and fire are similar. But lightning can stun lock multiple enemies in place and do large amounts of damage, whereas ice can quite literally freeze a large wave of enemies in place, giving you time to kind of just beat up some of them while leaving some of them to be stunned in place. Having 31 different characters really makes it difficult to know how you unlock each and every one of them. Now, and you really have to think about the fact that this is back in 2008, and not a ton of people really had easy access to the internet, so it was kind of difficult to figure out how to unlock some of these characters. So if your buddy on the playground was talking about using a skeleton as a character, you were like, I want to know how to get that. So it kind of sparked a bit of discussion in both younger children alike, as well as the older people on forums, because granted the internet was still around. People did sit and make guides on how to unlock these characters. Back in 2008, when the internet was still becoming increasingly popular and people found out that beating the game unlocked unique characters, it sparked a good bit of discussion of how to unlock these characters, therefore making the game even more popular. The more people you have talking about it, the more ears can hear about it. And that kind of added a bit of air of mystery around the game that made it enticing for at least me to continue playing and trying to unlock all the characters. While sadly I never did unlock all the characters, it was still really fun to try and go for them. Not only the characters, but there are also pets as well. Now, these pets can be something simple as just a stat buff, or it can be as something as complex as like slowly regenerating health, double XP, which the giraffe was the GOAT for that. That double XP would come in clutch so many times when I'm about to die, I'm all out of potions, and I would level up and just save the day. It was awesome. But there was even new weapons you could unlock as well. While some of them were just passive drops from enemies that you kill, some of them were kind of unique in that you had to go in behind certain structures and levels, and you would get an item, or some of them were even using a shovel to dig up these items. Now, you don't get the shovel until about halfway through the game, which prompts you to then go back in previous levels that you've already beaten before, and look for the X marks so that you can actually dig up some of the new weapons, or sometimes it's just treasure. Now, with all of this content, many could play the game over and over again, including myself, just to unlock all of these collectibles. So I think for the $15 price tag at the time, it was such a good deal for the amount of replayability you could have in this game. But even more than that, I believe it's the fact that it really was a 4-player co-op experience. And I do say experience because playing this game with a handful of friends on a weekend is some of the most fun I've ever had in gaming. The overall silliness that the game brings, as well as the silliness of just having 4 of your best friends together, just makes such a fun time, and is what truly escalates this game into stardom, in my opinion. I also think that the other game modes were a nice little side distraction from the main game. You had the obvious one being Arena, where you would PvP each other, so you can finally duke it out. There was this original Xbox 360 game mode, where you would just sit and eat fruit by button mashing X and Y. Now, this game mode was nothing too crazy. It was a little fun side thing you could do while you were waiting for your friends to load up their game and get on. It was really awesome. But there was also this one in the remaster, which in my opinion isn't as great as the original, but still is quite a fun time while you're just kind of sitting waiting to kill time. Pretty much you're a little board game piece, and you're on a board, and you have to dodge the enemy board game pieces. And while it doesn't sound too difficult on paper, the difficulty comes in the fact that each time you move, the buttons to move in certain directions change. So it's kind of like, you have to be quick with your coordination and be able to move. And while it is technically a better game when you realistically look at it, I don't think it holds that bit of nostalgia, at least for me, and that bit of charm to just a quick little button mashing to eat as much of the food as. Now, I won't go much into the end game or into many of the bosses, because I really do think that this is a game that all of you should get and try with a couple of your friends. Whether it's having them over on the couch and playing with you, because this game is 4-player split-screen co-op, or even just playing it online. I think this is something that you and your buddies should really try and experience yourself. I think that this is a game that is absolutely wonderful to just have a nice weekend playing, hanging out with your friends, and doing what you and your bros do best. And I think that's going to end it here for me today, guys. If you would like to see content similar to this, please let me know by liking and commenting on the video. It really helps me to know that you guys are enjoying this type of content. I'm also going to be working on a different kind of content here soon, so expect a video coming from me soon. And if you'd like to catch that video when it releases, please, by all means, if you subscribe and turn on notifications, that would mean the world to me, guys. I'll see you next time.